All right, hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Radio. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. This is episode 140, and tonight my guest is Sam Quinton, and he is the publisher. And I have to ask him if he's a couple other things going on over there. I know he's a writer, creator of a bunch of books, but over at Sinopa Publishing. So if you guys want to check it out, the link is in the description of the show. Before we bring him on, I want to say hello to those of you in the chat. We got Frederick here. What's up, Frederick? Hope you're doing well. Seer of all that is obvious. What's up? Hope you're doing good today. Ronan in the house. What's up, Michael Smith? Bob Dylan. Is that like, is he related to Matt or Kevin? Or are you referring to Bob Dylan, like a Rolling Stone, that guy? I think that's Dylan, I think. But maybe Bob Dylan, like that. Maybe that's like someone I just don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. Spicer McLeroy, how's it going? Hope you're doing good. Thank you for being here. It says working and twerking. Interesting. Wolf and Bear, how's it going, Wolf and Bear? Says tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Robert Doan, thank you for being here tonight, and I hope you're doing well. We got the beam pad here too. How's it going? And Ronan says the old guy. Oh, so the musician, right? Again, like I don't know. Maybe I'm out of touch. Maybe there is a different guy. I don't know, but I'm guessing the musician. Is that who you mean? Shrek PMC, how's it going, Shrek? Thank you for being here tonight. All right, so without further ado, let's bring him on. And Michael says, yeah, okay, good. All right, I don't want to be confused. I don't know. Sometimes people bring up names, and I'm like, is that person? Or is it just me? Whatever. Let's bring on the guest of the night. Oh, good grief. It's a live show. It's going to be that kind of show. It's going to be a fun show. Sam from Sinopa Publishing. Give him a big old Comic Book Radio welcome. He is the man of the hour. What's up, Sam?
Hey, Pete. It's good to see you, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Good to see you, too. Thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. We always have a blast here.
Oh, yeah. It's great talking to you, seeing what you're up to. We were catching up a bit before the show, what you guys are doing over there, and it's great to hear that you guys keep growing and having success. But I didn't want to just discuss all of it and not share it with the people at home. So, here we are.
Yeah,
so
it's tough because you want to catch up when you haven't spoken to someone for a while, So then it's like, hey, Spice, what's up, man?
Well, we'll have the hour to do that. So, cool. Let's for those that don't know. How long has Sinopa Publishing been around, and why did you start it?
Okay, so we've been legally formed and operating since May of 2017. I started Sinopa to start publishing role-playing game books and eventually get into comics. There's a few other things further down that we're working on too. But we started with the RPGs, got a little bit of money stocked up so we could start making comics. We've been focusing a lot on comics the last couple of years because comics is tough, But started with our title we're probably most known for, 47 Furious Tales, the story of the 47 Ronin, which is told through anthropomorphic animals. And then added Reign of Ages, which is our black and white fantasy title. And then Necroholic by Brian Lee, the first comic book published that someone else wrote and created. And then we just took care of our first issue of our newest title line, Tibian or Time Traveling Psychedelic Mushrooms, which is a fun little trip of a book.
And that's your latest one, right?
Yeah, that was the latest one. We put that a couple months ago. Took it to New York Comic Con. We did our first time at NYCC. So we had a batch of books that met me in Pennsylvania and a batch of books that came here for the Kickstarter fulfillment. And then sold books in NYC, ran back here, and packed and shipped and packed and shipped. You know the drill. So it was a crazy week and a half.
How did that Kickstarter go for Tibby?
Tibby was our highest pledged Kickstarter campaign. I think we were at 8,600 for that. We had also some shop orders outside of that weren't on the Kickstarter from some of the supporting stores who carry our stuff. So I printed heavy for small press printer. We printed 5,450 copies total. We did.
Yeah, that's a big run for small press.
Yeah, it was the biggest that I've done for any single issue so far. We usually try to print at least 1,500, at least, usually, if the capital position permits. One reason for that is I don't reprint covers. So for floppies, whenever we take and we run through that, we sell out of that, we go ahead and buy a new cover from the artist and we put out a new press run. That way, if there's ever going to be any collectible value for any of the books, it's in the scarcity of the particular covers.
So on that book in particular, what kind of a book is it? Is it a single issue? Is it a trade?
Tibby is a single issue. We've got just a introductory story, just a fun little romp through time, introducing Tibby and her homegrown psychedelics and her first try with them that hurls her back in time. And we're going to put out episodic adventures with that series. So the next one is going to take us back to Woodstock, the original Woodstock Music Festival. And then the third issue in Tibby is going to bring us back to a little further back in time and the introduction of our first actual villainous adversary, someone notorious in history, someone who's never brought to justice. And I think we've got a lot of fun that we can play with there.
You've got about a couple thousand people that could be.
yeah. I don't want to give away too much because like some people are like, hey, is it this? Is it this? And I'm like, you guys have to pick up issue 3 and find out. But first, get issue 2, which we'll hope to bring to Kickstarter, crowdfunder, Indiegogo, fund my comic. Hopefully, I'd like to get it there in April or May.
So how many copies of that? Because I'm very curious because that's a big print run for small press, especially. How many copies did you guys sell through the Kickstarter?
Through the Kickstarter itself, I think we were somewhere around 500 copies for the Kickstarter campaign. Because we had like a lot of people ordered the 3-pack where they got the holochrome, they got the Virgin variant, they got the press, and we moved. I say a lot. We had like 30 people who did that. And those holochromes were pricey because, of course, they're pricey to print. But then we had people who picked up like extra Virgin variant copies and stuff for friends, and a couple of the shop owners who had orders in for like 5 or 10 books or whatever to kind of test the waters with it, went ahead and ordered personal copies. So it was pretty cool.
Nice. How many shops are you dealing with?
We're shipping to 34 currently right now, and 34 cool. Shop locations. One of our actually 35. We just added our first local store here in Frankfurt, which is a retro video game shop.
Nice.
Retro's the Vault. The first after 6.5 years, the first local store who was willing to carry our books in the shop. It was crazy, but 35 counting them, individual locations. One of the shops has 9 different locations, so I'm counting all 9 of theirs as 9 shops instead of as 1. But you get the idea.
How is that going for you? Because I'm guessing you're doing this on your own, right? You're not going through a distributor or anything like that.
Right. We're looking at, there's a lot going on with distributors right now. I don't know if everyone's aware of what's going on with, Diamond, with Lunar, with everyone else. There's a lot of indie press guys, even guys as small as my company, who are looking at getting into wider spread distribution. And the thing about that is that some of these distributors, they've got waiting lists while they're processing and onboarding other people. So, it'll be a little bit before we're through full distribution to the traditional comic book market. Like right now, we sell to our individual supporting shops, and then also through comic mainstream distribution out in Oregon with Adam Watson. So he's got us on spinner racks, and that's an additional 9 locations on top of the shops that we support. So that's been very, very handy. Primarily, our books usually sell best in the marijuana dispensaries out there is where a lot of our books are selling, which may be content or it may be just because we use that satin soft touch finish on the books, so they feel really good. So if you're going in to get your edibles and you had a few and you're like, ooh, it feels good, I'm taking it home, I'm completely cool with that, guys. Enjoy your comic.
Okay, that's interesting.
You'll see what I mean. I'll get you some in the mail.
Spicer, I'm going to. I have a feeling of what you mean. I think we've used that same kind of thing on a couple books here. Spicer, I see your question. I'm going to star it, and this way I can get back to it as time allows, which we definitely will have time for it. I just want to get a couple establishing questions here with Sam, and the same thing with you guys too. If you guys have questions in the chat, feel free to put them up. I'm going to star them, and then this way I can get back to them. So, what has it been like for you in terms of getting established with your publishing company? What was the path that you guys had started with and that you're currently on?
It's been a lot of work, like anything worthwhile. It's been a lot of work. The whole thing about small press indie publishing, RPGs and comics in particular, the stuff I'm doing right now, is it's a lot like an iceberg. You only see the top sticking out, and everything below that is working to push that to the surface. So it's calling shop owners and having conversations with them, sending PDF examples out to them. It's talking with different distribution centers. It's talking with chain stores like Liquor Barn and other chain stores for distribution in theirs directly to them, and stuff like that. And then of course dealing with your artists. Now I write pretty much everything that we publish, except for Necroholic. And then I don't do any of the art, so I have to commission and contract that. The nice part is that the capital coming in from the current catalog can go into getting work done on the next project, so that we can get ahead on that, bring it to Kickstarter as far close to finished as we can before we bring it there. Ideally, I would like to get to the point where the capital flow allows us to get every book done before we go, because I really like a quick turnaround. Which we see that a lot in like the Indiegogo campaigns that we do, because we do those after we do the Kickstarter fulfillment. Okay. And so what's nice about that is that then usually we do it right after fulfillment, I should say. There's been a couple times we've done it during. But usually we'll have them, and then we'll set them at flexible goals on Indiegogo, and then we'll fulfill them as they come in. And the same thing with Crowdfunder, the same thing with Fund My Comic. We did Fund My Comic for Tibby, and we were waiting on the print run. So those guys waited for a little bit for the print run to come in and me to get back from New York. But then we got those out as quick as we could. Full disclosure, though, it took us a couple extra weeks to get the holochromes in, and that was my fault. But once I got that squared away with the printer, we got those in lickety split and got those books out to their homes.
Nice.
So. The other thing too is, like I said, it's been a lot of work. I've been really fortunate to work with really great professional artists, people who are really, really solid. I've only ever had one artist who presented any difficulty, and I just never worked with them again. It was very, very simple. But I've been fortunate enough to work with folks like Alexia Veldhausen, who's worked on probably half of our catalog or more. James Lee, Brian Lee. Of course, I think everyone knows Nick Capone, who does a lot of coloring for pretty much every company there is out there for the, just tremendous number of titles. Damian Torres, Dakota Erhan, Sandra Cole. There's a list of like 25. I'm not going to run through the whole, but you get the idea. Just these fantastic people who have been really good about delivering on their deadlines and, working with the process so that we're looking at, hey, this is where our layout looks. Let's make sure we make a little change here to make sure that our story makes sense. get our inks down. Outstanding, cool. Fantastic lettering. We've had Brian Lee do some lettering on 47. We've had Taylor Esposito, who teaches lettering at Kubert School, letter Reign of Ages, and letter Tibby. He's absolutely fantastic. And beyond that, it's the typical strain of crowdfunding. I tend to have kind of a lower profile. I'm not particularly known for drama.
Uh-oh.
I know,
you
right?
came to the wrong channel, my friend.
I just, for some reason, I'm usually pretty good about it.
Don't tell anyone that you know me.
I'll tell everyone. Here's the thing. It's like I get along with most everyone. I'm not going to go off on the people I don't, because it just wastes your time and mine and gives them more traffic. But like people will find me hanging out with the guys on the Madness channel on Facebook. They'll find me all the time talking with Johnny Reed, Max DeVille of Atrocity Press, hanging out with Larry while he's working on Niobe. Warren Brown, who does Sig and Joe, absolutely fantastic. And then I love being able to reach out to Mike Shea, who does Miskatonic High. He does such fantastic work. And Madeline Holly Rossing, who does Boston Metaphysical Society. Tyler Carpenter, who does all kinds of stuff. But I kind of think that I still like Chefs. The Super Plumber Sisters really, really good, but I think that Chefs was just so out there and so neat that it still is the first thing I think of when I think of Tyler. Travis Gibb, Travis has done some amazing writing. And of course, Tom Hutchins, who runs Big Dog Inc. Fantastic creator, wonderful professional. Always happy to pick his brain. And then folks like Pete Vasquez, who's a fantastic, really more of an underground artist, not so much of a comic creator, but just such a wonderful creative soul, and just a real joy to communicate with. He's actually one of my daughter's favorite artists. She has art that he's done on her wall.
Nice.
So I actually commissioned him to do a portrait of my daughter once. So, I mean, it tells you I think he's pretty special.
When you're signing on different kinds of projects here, do you have a website? Are submissions coming into you, or are you scouting?
We're not open on submissions. What we've done is I've been doing this canary in the coal mine test with Necroholic from Brian. We're getting the feelers out there to make sure that we can get books out and get them to market in a way that's actually making the creator some money, So we have a lot of effort, really trying to make sure we're refining that and get it done right. There are two other artists I've worked with quite a lot who are wanting to bring their titles in, and I've agreed to do that. The condition, of course, is the books have to be done. Books have to be done. I have to have those files. I have to be able to send them to the printer, get proofs before I'm going to bring them to Kickstarter for printing. But we're looking forward to bringing a couple of those out in 2024 as well. As far as the website goes, I've been working on our commercial website. Finally, I put it off too long. We use Drive-Thru Comics and Drive-Thru RPG for our primary digital and print-on-demand sales. We haven't been doing our comics on print-on-demand, just our RPG stuff. But the thing about the comics is whenever we do input for print-on-demand options, they'll have a separate cover. It's very specific print-on-demand cover for each issue. That way, again, just preserving as much of any collectible potential for our crowdfunding audience and the guys who are ordering through our supporting stores as possible. Because it's a long gamble to see if an indie book is going to be worth anything in the future. So if you can make anything to put the thumb on the scales on that and bring those odds up, I think it's worth it.
You might have said it before, but how long have you guys been around? What year did you guys start?
2017.
Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. So 6 years or so.
Yep.
So when you're dealing with retailers at this point, is it on a consignment basis? Is it on a returnable basis? Is it on you're giving them a discount? You don't have to let me know what kind of
discount. I can disclose that. That's no problem. So our retailers, we don't do consignment. We have an arrangement with Comics Mainstream Distribution that kind of mirrors that a little bit, but they're acting more in an agency capacity. The supporting stores who we ship to directly, they have a flat 50% of the retail cost, and then we cover shipping when they meet a minimum threshold for the shipment in question. So if someone needs like 5 or 6 copies of something, it's probably better to wait a couple of weeks and just order to meet your particular threshold, which is usually 25 books in the United States, unless you live in Alaska, Hawaii, or Puerto Rico. And then it's actually 30 because of the shipping difference. But that gets books on the shelf at $2.50, and you're selling them at $5. So I mean, our books are priced what they're priced at. We're printing on 110 to 130 pound cover stock with 80-pound interior silk paper. So, oh, thanks, Pete. That's Pete Vasquez, fantastic underground artist. So I mean, yeah, getting it at that production quality and getting on the shelves, I think is a kind of a big deal. And I think we can realistically ask for $5. I'd like to be a little lower, but at offset rates, you're talking about trying to get into press runs around 9,000 or so to try and get that, if you want to get that price down to say like $3.75, $4 retail, and that's just, I just don't have the space to store the extra stuff. And with 5 stores in the area, there's even on my best day, I couldn't hope to move.
Are you printing in the U.S.? Are you printing elsewhere?
We print in the United States.
We
print in the United States. Well, in the United States and Canada. We have had a couple of runs printed in Canada during paper shortage issues. Necroholic issue 1 is a good example of that. We had to have them printed through Avenue 4 because our usual supplier through Mixam literally didn't have the paper we needed, and couldn't produce a press run that we needed for many of the printers in the time frame that was allotted. We wanted to get it done, within the usual 2-week turnaround that we get domestically, and they just couldn't do it. So we got through Avenue 4, and there was a little delay in customs, but only a couple of days. Got that handled, and then everything else has been through for comics has been through Mixam, except for the holochromes, which we did through Comics Wellspring.
It's interesting you're using Mixam. Have you guys considered talking to other printers that aren't like comic book type printers?
Yeah, I live in Kentucky, and so as you're probably aware, we've got some major print facilities here in the state, particularly in Louisville. I'll tell you a little story about a conversation I had at an office in Louisville from a printer that prints. They print magazines, they print school books, they print stuff for Penguin, and I wanted 3,000 copies of a particular comic, right? And the specs were, standard size, 110-pound satin soft touch finish, 80-pound interior silk finish, full color, 28 pages. They wanted $8 a book. And at the time, I was getting books at 72 cents a piece from Mixam, and that's factoring in my delivery fees. And I just said, you want $24,000 for a 3,000 copy press run? You're like, yeah, you're not going to beat it. And I pulled up my phone, and
that sounds like a heat set web press printer. That's what that sounds like, where they're used to printing like 50,000 minimums.
Well, I mean, they have offset and web, and they also have a little shop where they do like digital print for like really small prep, like 300 or whatever, and they're asking $12 and $15 for comics from there. I'm like, you are out of your mind. But yeah, that was a conversation I had with them in Louisville, and didn't have that conversation with them again. But I've also had some conversations.
There's a lot of printers out there that are very strange when they come to quoting.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some really productive conversations with Rich Boyd down in Florida. Rich is pretty good. He's the first to tell you if he can match a price or beat a price, or if he can't. So I mean, if you're looking for someone who will give you an honest, fair comparison on what his genuine capabilities are, I usually always check against Rich because I'd like to get him some more business. He's just been a really good dude. Was referred by Travis Gibb actually, and so I tend to listen to people who have experience with particular printers. So, but Mixam's been really, really good to me. We've had a couple of incidents, but usually it's the delivery aspect more than it is the production aspect. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the nature too of printing, is that there's always going to be something, whether it's in the delivery, the shipping, or whether it's in how they packed it, or it's rare when it's like a printing error, and even then it's rare when it's across the run. Maybe you get a couple books here and there.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's
packaging
there's always
errors.
something.
Packing errors are I think probably a thing we see more with bigger runs, but that's just human clumsiness. Now I'll tell you who else too is Minuteman Press. They came through clutch for us on
Minuteman Press. Wow, I haven't heard that name in a while.
There's a actual shop location for Minuteman, like 10 minutes from where Brian Lee lives in Pennsylvania, and we had a shipment of art prints that got turned around, and instead of going to where it was supposed to, where it was addressed to, it ended up at my house in Kentucky with a Pennsylvania delivery address on it. So I thought that was interesting. But went down to Minuteman, and they ran 700 copies of 11 by 17 art prints we needed for New York Comic Con. We got them in 3 hours.
So very nice.
They did. Hats off to those guys, and they gave me some good quotes on some other services, including comics and such. And so we'll be comparing their price rates with Mixam on future projects as well.
So how many books do you guys publish? How many are in your stable there?
For comics right now, we have 47 Furious Tales, Reign of Ages, Necroholic, Tibby and Her Time Traveling Psychedelic Mushrooms. In development, we have our first superhero comic, which is 1 in a Million. Trademark pending. The deal on that. Gotta wait till it gets out before we finalize it. But yeah, 1 in a Million. Hopefully, to bring that out this summer. And then the 2 other titles we've got coming in, they're creator owned from 2 of the others out there. From our role playing game books, we have our running adventure sets, which are the Tarot Adventures. We didn't put out any D&D stuff this year. There was a bit of and continues to be some problems with the Wizards of the Coast scandals that they keep dropping left and right this year between the 5e open game license debacle and stuff with AI art, and then all this thing with them firing people before Christmas. It's just right when you get ready to say, yeah, we'll go ahead and put out a 5e thing, that they smack you in the head again. And then I have a actual RPG system in-house that we've been working on for a few years. So
very nice. Old Dirty Fatty wants to know, where do you work out of?
I'm out of Frankfort, Kentucky. Work for the courts during the day. Single dad with beautiful kids that live here, and then I'm working usually after they're asleep and working my tail off until I have to crash and get back up to get them fed and get them on the bus in the morning.
Well, man, kudos to you. Spicer McLeroy wants to know, knowing all you do know about publishing, or knowing all you do know now about publishing, what type of advice would you give yourself when you first started?
One of the things that when I first started, and again, we were just starting with the role-playing game stuff, was we were just doing print on demand. And that is really great if you're just fulfilling individual orders and you don't care about if your profit margin's like 75 cents, right? For like a $20 book. But if you want to get in stores or something, you really need to figure out where your economy of scale is for your offset press runs or higher. And so I would look at, set aside the money that you need for the press run that you really want to have, and then get that in and just sell that book to pieces. Don't get me wrong, print on demand's nice so that you don't have to keep inventory. But when it comes to like selling books at a con, and you've got like a D&D adventure book you're selling for $20, but you've got $14 in on the print on demand on that, it doesn't leave you a lot of wiggle room if someone wants to put it in their shop, and doesn't leave them any profit margin. So I would definitely say, look at what it's going to take to get your economy of scale, put that money together, and then get the book printed to bulk. Find some space in your home, and then do your shows and move your books. Not just conventions. Library shows are fantastic. Those little library events, those little signing events at comic shops. It's so weird to say this, but like I had a little itty bitty event I did a couple of weeks ago, and we actually sold more on that day in 3 hours than we did on our worst day at New York Comic Con. It was crazy.
Yeah, smaller shows are usually better. And it's so expensive and time consuming to get into the big shows, and they can cost you like $1,000 or $2.
It was $2,250 for our booth, just our booth space at NYCC.
Oh yeah.
And then I had a 780-mile drive one way. So I had van rental and all that. But we sold a lot of books. We made a lot of great connections. Yeah, it was a hell of a thing. I'm hoping to go back this year if we can, make sure all of our capital's in the right spot. But we've got so many new titles coming out. It's, balancing what's coming with what we want to do.
It's interesting. You remind me of me at that point in which you're at right now.
I hope that's a good thing.
When I was 6 years into it, I'm like doing all the different shows, doing a lot of signings, leaning heavy into the retail aspect of it and the convention kind of thing. I did craft shows, I did library shows, all that kind of stuff, and they're good. But eventually, it's like a lot of different things happen. Of course, a lot of different things happen.
Well, the pandemic shutdown really put the kibosh on that. We lost a couple of years worth of traction on that.
Yeah. So, well, I was lucky that we were in a different scenario at that point in time that we were able to ride that out. But even now, it's one of those things where it's tougher and tougher to do so because the landscape has changed so much. So I didn't realize this, but Spicer actually had that question for me too. And that's this one about knowing all you do now about publishing. What type of advice would you give yourself when you first started? I would give myself advice when I first started to just take time and just focus more on my own work, and more on getting better, as opposed to feeling the need to help others too quickly. Because when I started off publishing, man, I think I was only doing comic stuff for roughly 2 years or so. I was kind of straight out of college, and I started Alterna. I did I worked 2 to 3 jobs for the first 6 or 7 years, and I kept getting a lot of people asking within the first 6 to 8 months of just starting Alterna as a self-publishing label to take on their work as a submission. And I kind of got, not suckered into it, but I kind of felt like, man, these poor guys, they just need a break. And they're so good. I felt like they were better than me. And so why not? Let's take them on and we'll do that. And we'll have strength in numbers and people will rally around each other and all of that. And the vast majority of creators, I even see it to this day, the vast majority of creators do not do that. They do not rally around and support each other. Very few that I've worked with over the years, and I've worked with maybe close to 1,000 people in 17 years. Published over 400 different issues, over 150 different titles.
Nice.
Maybe more at this point. If I don't know, man. There's a lot of books. So it's like, just thinking back about it, I'm like, there were some people who were great, had a great work ethic, a great attitude, and had that same mindset, that same drive. And then there were far more that kind of just wanted someone to foot the bill for everything, and they wanted to just go, well, it's enough that I made it, and it's not enough that you made it, and that attitude I find is too prevalent in this industry, and I got into it too early, too quickly, and that's why I always tell people I speak out of experience when I say don't rush into stuff.
Yep.
I'm not saying it out of some kind of telling people what to do or whatever, but more from I guess a place of experience, because it could bury you. I saw a lot of publishers and a lot of people into my situation too along the way that it kind of buried them. But yeah, that's what I would definitely tell myself. Just focus more on the stuff I wanted to do, because I put a lot of that over the years to the side, trying to help other people who eventually it was detrimental to myself, to the company I was trying to make. It almost put us under several different times in several different ways. So yeah, that's more what I would go back and tell myself. But there's a lot of lessons to learn when you do this stuff, just like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you can't go back. You can only make the best of it as you go along.
Yep.
But I that's why I always stress to people: don't be in a rush to rush into everything. Take your time. Spicer has another question. It says, do you have a checklist / process you follow when you're ready to launch your books? What are some of the things you've tried that went well or wrong? And again, this is both the question for both of us. So you go first, of course.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I've done as far as the crowdfunding goes is I keep a copy of Madeline Holly Rawson's book on Kickstarter for the Beginner, I think is the title of it. I've probably got it right. Yeah, it's right here. This is now she hasn't paid me for this anyway, but Kickstarter for the Independent Creator by Madeline Holly Rawson. So anyone who asks me about crowdfunding, this is what I point them to, because I've done a lot of crowdfunding campaigns, a lot. We've never done like huge numbers, but we've fulfilled every campaign that we've ever done that's met goal. And actually one that we did for a D&D project for a Christmas thing, myself and Zach Viola, we did a 2018 Santa Dragon Claus book with Christmas gift items and weapons and stuff for D&D, all Christmas themed.
Nice.
And we didn't come anywhere close to making our goal. And so what we did is we took and we had a conversation like 2 days before the campaign ended. And when the campaign came to a close and we were still at like 30% of goal, we took and we had already formatted the book. It was completely done. It was at drive-through. It was ready to go. Took and sent digital copies to everybody that night. And then when the print-on-demand proof came in and we were able to turn it on, we sent the print-on-demand discount code so that everyone who backed it could get the book at the cost of printing. So we didn't make a dime on that book from the crowdfunding, but everyone who came out and was willing to back it, we got that done. So I kind of count that as one of our successes, even though it really wasn't. But the whole thing about the checklist, Madeline addresses a lot of things to do as far as with your planning your promotion. So whenever I get ready to do campaigns, I start talking to people usually a few months ahead of time, especially the shows that you really want to be on. Like if you want to talk with Pete, you need to give him some lead time so that he can fit you in the calendar. If you want to talk to Niall Scala, you need to make sure you give him a few months of lead time. If you want to talk to Max DeVille, or if you want to talk to Larry Patrick Higgins, if you want to talk to Two Geeks, give them a few months lead time. Plan out what you're going to do. The other thing too is check with your printer. Never assume anything, because you might find that your print shop is moving in new equipment in the second quarter of next year, and that's going to delay production on certain lines. And the comic lines, let's face it, are not like really huge money benders. So they're going to be the ones that are going to be taking a lot of the overflow for like the zines and stuff like that. So make sure you talk to your printer so that you know that you're going to be able to get your books done in a right space of time. I've got something else to say about printers later on. As far as other processes, always use contracts. Make sure they're complete. They spell out everyone's obligations, timetables, your compensation packages. Make sure people sign them. Make sure they're legal. Don't slip in the illegal crap in your contracts, because that will come back to bite you. And and then pay your people on time. So have, fixed dates. Know when you're going to get your crowdfunding revenue. Know when you're going to be expecting revenue from your supporting stores if you've got those sales lined up. Make sure you know if you've got royalty assignments, how they're going to be paid, when they're going to be paid, how they're going to be transmitted. In some cases, what currency they're going to be in. For example, we've got an artist who lives in Turkey. We pay her in US dollars. It goes to an account she has in the EU. So that is as that is. We're not paying her in dinars. And anyone who's been to Turkey recently probably understands why. But yeah, go over every little detail and make a plan, make a schedule, put it in your online calendar, on your phone, on your desktop, your laptop, everywhere that you need to make sure that you have your tasks, and try to have all of your tasks done ahead of time whenever possible. Understand that you're going to forget some things, you're going to make mistakes. And this is something that I see a lot of creators doing right now, is they'll make a mistake and then they'll just kind of melt down. Don't do that. Find solutions. And the other thing too is ask.
Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by they melt down?
Sure. I had a gentleman I know who did a Kickstarter campaign, and he had asked me a couple of questions, and I told him, make sure you're doing your shipping calculation, right? He did not do his shipping calculation. And by that, I mean, he did not factor in the cost of his shipping supplies, and he made an assumption on what it was going to cost him to ship. So he undercharged his shipping by about $3 per pledge domestic, and probably about $10 for some internationals. So he lost money on basically every international backer, and then on the majority of his domestics. So I said, you need to find a solution. You need to find somewhere that you can get your shipping materials cheaper, or you can if worse comes to worse, you can ask backers if they can kick a couple more dollars to help cover the cost because you made a mistake. No one wants to do that, but it's always an option. I said you can put together a deal with a supplier, maybe a sponsor, some sporting store, something like that. But he just wanted to melt down about it. He's just like, no, I'm just going to cancel the campaign. I'm like, dude, you've raised $7,000 on a $4,000 goal, and it's your first campaign. You can do this. You just need to find a solution. And, part of the solution ended up being he went through Gemini Mailer and got the creator sponsorship package. So he put the Gemini ad in his book, and it's got store credit with Gemini, and they send him a bunch of mailers. So that offset, almost $1 of the cost right there. And then I put him on to a couple suppliers that I use, Bubble Boy for his bubble wrap, and a supplier I use for my packing tape, and we saved him a little bit of money there. And basically nickeled and dimed it down to where he was still, about $1 or so out, because of his postage miscalculation, but we managed to mitigate his packaging screw up. So yeah, don't melt down. Focus on the solutions after you've identified the problem.
I agree. That's good advice. I've dealt with a bunch of people over the years when it comes to that stuff.
And
yeah,
if I can, just a quick one. I personally don't like ads in comics, like in the middle of the book. Now, we do some stuff on the back cover, and then on the interior cover, like we exchange ads with some of our other creators. But like the back here, we've got an ad from the Kubert School. The Gemini ad that we've run has supplied us with Gemini mailers, which is a huge boon for any creator who's going to be shipping stuff. Yeah, between the last Reign of Ages campaign and the Tibby campaign, all of our Gemini mailers were provided from our promotions.
So you got Gemini mailers for free, is what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah, I think my out of pocket was like $3 left on the shipping cost.
Very nice.
And I've still got about 200 left over. So yeah, I mean that's as free as it comes, just for the ad space.
Wow, that's great. That's
Now,
great.
I mean, it was a good deal for them too, because I mean, like I said, we did print over 5,000 copies of Tibby, so I mean that's a lot of advert.
Yeah, yeah. With those 5,000 copies, is that the entirety of all the books? Because you said you had multiple covers too.
Yeah, that's the totality. We did 5,000 copies of the cover with the trade dress, 400 copies virgin variants without the trade dress, and then 50 copies for the holochrome.
Okay. All right.
So 5,450 copies.
And Spicer, seriously, everything, I can't add anything to what Sam said. Every single thing Sam said is comprehensive in terms of all of that. I would agree 100%. And then I'm grasping at straws trying to add anything else to that. So
I have
second it.
I have something because I do it a lot. Ask questions. Now, Pete will be. I don't know if you remember this, Pete, but there's been times over the years where I'll reach out to you and ask you a question because I know that you've probably run into the situation I've run into and probably have an opinion on it. And I'll ask you. I'll ask Tom Hutchins. I'll ask Larry. I'll ask Max. I'll ask Travis. I'll ask Madeline or Mike. If something comes up, I'll reach out and ask and say, hey, I've got this kind of thing going on. Have you had this happen before? And like with you, I think the first time I reached out was a printing question because we had when we ran into the Mixum issue where they didn't have the paper stock. You were one of the people I reached out on that. And so, yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. But I would also not take everything everyone says as the gospel. Ask for multiple opinions, just like you would for a doctor. Ask people who know what they're talking about, people who've done it for a while. And do it in a courteous way because people don't owe you anything. But I mean, a lot of these folks have always been really willing to help out. So I mean, whether it's asking, through like a public, tweet on X or whatever, or if it's someone that you communicate with, through DMs, be polite and respectful. Don't be the number one rule of any religion. Don't be an asshole.
Is that the number one rule?
That is, do unto others as you would want to be done yourself. Don't be an asshole.
A lot of people might be doing that wrong.
I know, right?
But yeah, that's good advice. And speaking of which, something that frustrates me when people do that, when people play the I don't know what I'm doing, can you give me some advice game, is when you do give them some advice. And then it's not just like accepting it and going, okay, and then you go on to the next person to see if, and you can learn. But then you push back. And I notice that happens sometimes with some people. And I'm not saying take the advice completely, but if I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing in this space. What is your advice in this situation? And then someone takes the time to do that. And then you push back on everything, being like, no, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's how you would do it. I don't think that's gonna work. And it's very puzzling to me because I'm like, well, you presented it as if you don't know what you're doing. So why the pushback? You obviously have an idea of what you're doing. So instead frame it as, I want to do this. What do you think of that? Is that something that I should do? As opposed to saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, what would I do in this scenario?
Yeah, I'd like to hear your opinion on this type of scenario and what kind of action. Be open to suggestions, but yeah, I mean, sometimes people do. They'll kick back like, oh, well, that's just not going to work. I can't do that. Well, I mean, that might be what you have to do. You might have to find a way to do that. Exactly. It's like the whole shipping problem that the one fella I know ran into, because he literally was just ready to cancel his campaign, and I mean. I think I'd be more interested in finding solutions than be quick to can $7,000 in pledges. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I get people being in that mindset and kind of having that meltdown, but at the same time, especially when you're in it like that, man, I've seen people even have that meltdown though before they got into that situation when something is very easily solvable and you're just in the setting up stage. And they hit a hurdle, and they can't wrap their mind around trying to fix it, and it's just, this is too much, this is too crazy. And I'm like, what are you having a problem with? And it's like this, and I'm like, that's just easy, do this and that, and you should be all set. No, this is just too crazy, this is just too much, I hate doing this. I'm like, all right, well, it's gonna get a lot harder, so I guess maybe you should not do any of this, because I see a lot of that, and people that force it, and then they go, they keep on trying to do what they do, and then everything snowballs and things get worse, and there's like a stubbornness factor involved, and like a maybe some kind of a weird sense of pride about it, and they don't want to take the advice, they don't want to listen to how to fix it, they don't sometimes even want a solution, sometimes they just want to freak out, and that just, it's sad to see that, but at the same time, when I am in the mix with an individual that's like that, I oftentimes have to go, look, I gotta do what I gotta do. You figure out what you gotta do. It's your thing. I can't do it for you. So however you want to do it, that's how it's gonna have to be. But it is a shame when people do that, and then it just implodes. And unfortunately, some people that happens, and maybe sometimes it's for the best, but it is odd to me when I see that.
And the other thing too is don't assume you know everything. Be open to stuff. I to this day I get good advice from a lot of great people. From Mike Shea, from Madeline, from Pete, from Larry, from Max, from Pete Vasquez. From Tom. I get fantastic advice from Tom and Pete on our setup for conventions, for example.
I mean, hell, I get great advice even from the chat.
Yeah.
Just talking about things. Everybody has some sense of something. And, there could be people out there that just because maybe they're not a publisher or a creator or whatever, there's tremendous amounts of great advice sometimes that come kicking along, or there's an idea that's a little bit outside the box from somebody. And maybe you can't utilize it completely in terms of what they're saying for one reason or the other, but it'll make you go, oh, I could do this though maybe instead, and it shows you a different path. So that mindset that is there with like, oh, I can't listen to anybody, but at the same time I need advice from everyone, is puzzling to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Sometimes people just, and I put up with that a lot in a lot of different situations over the years, but not just with publishing, but in other stuff. And sometimes people just have to learn on their own failures. But if someone asks me my opinion, I'll usually give it to them.
Yeah, 100%. So the stores that you're working with, are those largely stores that are outside of the comic shop realm? It kind of sounds like that, but I don't know.
The ones through Comic Mainstream are mostly outside the comic book realm, but the ones I ship to directly from here are comic shops, almost exclusively. We've got one head shop that we ship to as well, but and then of course Retros is a retro video game, console game, pop culture, trading card games and stuff kind of shop here locally. But everything else is pretty much comic shops. We had 3 other stores additionally, but those 3 shops closed this year, which is unfortunate because really, really great people run them, but the last few years have been murder on comic shops.
For those that are watching now or watching later, that maybe want to check out some of these stores that carry your stuff, do you remember any of them off the top of your head that you can just fire out there?
I just sent some stuff to Cosmic Capes and Comics, Third Eye Comics. I think the last thing I shipped to them was some 47 Furious Tales. I'll have to reach out to them, see what else they need, but those are the ones that come to mind immediately because those are some of my bigger customers. Well, since the box in Louisiana closed anyway. And then the Collective down at Altamonte Springs, they primarily just carry 47 Furious Tales. That's kind of the title they like down there. You can usually get that there. They also carry our role-playing game books down there if you're a D&D fan. So and if they're sold out of something and you're in the Altamonte area, they've got my information and I can ship to them anytime. That's no problem. And if your local shop isn't one that we regularly ship to, just have them give us a call. We can put together a box of 25 books and ship it to them. They'll have some cool indie books on the shelf, and do them a solid, go up and pick up some copies of our books, and there you go.
So how does that work for you? Do you call them up? Do you guys? Is there a website involved? How do they place orders with you?
I actually take and I call them. I talk to whoever the owner or the manager is. I do a very human touch to it. And then I say, hey, I'd like to, send you some PDFs so you can take a look, see if these are books that might be interested in carrying on the shop. And if you like, I can mail you a sample of some of the books, and I don't have a problem, sending a couple books as a sample for a prospective client. And then what we do is we just take it nice and easy. Hey guys, when you need books from me, when we got new titles come out, we'll let you know. If we get a particular title you need us to restock, reach out to us. We'll go ahead and ship stuff, and then we just invoice it directly through PayPal. It's real simple on my bookkeeping, and it doesn't put any pressure on the retailers. And the thing about it is that the stores who are carrying us all this time are the stores who have really been seeing our books sell for them. Like the collective down in Altamonte Springs, since we first shipped to them in 2019, we've shipped a total of it's either 110 or 120 copies just of 47 Furious Tales issue 1, and then light numbers for 2 and 3, and then they didn't carry very many of Rain, and they didn't pick up Tibby because it's a little risque. But yeah, I mean, any way you look at it, a single shop selling 100 and plus copies of one issue of your book is incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Most of them, we might do like 10 or 15 copies of a particular issue, and then some are just like, hey, send me 5 of each, and then when the next book comes out, hey, we'll take 5 of that, let me get 3 more of each of these, and they'll put together an order at the 25 threshold, and then we'll get that down to them. Next book comes out, same story. We did for a while with our crowdfunding have some store specific tiers, and what we did was we had, like, say, for the collective, right, and the store address, there was one pledge for that. They would come in and pledge that on the first day, and then in the text it would say, hey, if you live in the Altamonte Springs area, you can actually just pick up a copy directly at the collective, because this is where your store is at. And so we were actually diverting people from the Kickstarter who were local to the store, and so the store was able to profit from that. It saved us on shipping and time on handling stuff, and really helped to keep people in the comic shop. The only problem we ran into is that we started to see people who were then coming behind on our campaigns and then harassing those vendors. And so then we started having more of this situation where we do like, hey, as soon as you reach goal, we'll go ahead and put us down for this and send us an invoice. And so that's basically what a lot of the stores are doing right now. Whenever we have a campaign, they'll say, hey, I need 10 copies of the new book, and I need like 5 of this, 3 of this, 2 of this, or whatever. Hey, can I get some 11 by 17s for this? And we'll put together their order, customize it, and ship it down to make sure that they have plenty of room to make the money on it. Because if there's one thing that I could tell people about selling to retailers, is that retailers will keep buying your stuff so long as your stuff is profitable for them. So don't get in your head that every store is going to pay $5 for your book so that they can sell it at 10, because they're going to have a hard time selling that book at 10. Find a way to get your price point down, because like at a shipment with 25 books, I might make $7 net on that box, and for me that's fine, because that's my net, that's my profit. I'm cool, and my shops will order more stuff down the road, and that kind of keeps the cash flow.
Wait a second. If you ship them 25 books, right? I'm guessing the books. What's the cover price that the retail would go
$5? They're paying $2.50, and I'm covering the shipping when they meet minimum. So my net, after shipping and every expenses, as long as it's at least $7, I'm okay with it. My net after all costs.
Oh, okay. So wait a second. You're talking about per book or per the 25?
No, for the whole package. So the books, the shipping, all packaging costs. So long as I have a net profit on that box of at least $7, I'm happy.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Um, yeah. Well, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, because if you're how big of a discount would you be giving? Because
They're
if it's 125 retail is what it would be selling the
no,
25 at 5.
they're selling at $5. I'm selling them at $2.50, so they're at 50%.
Okay.
Okay, but my print costs are usually around 80 cents a book.
Oh, okay. So your print costs involved are a little higher.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
my print costs are a little low compared to what I think a lot of people are seeing. So
Oh, well,
if I
you're
can,
definitely making more than 7, right?
well, I mean,
Or
like I
or
said,
you're
so
comping shipping.
I'm covering shipping. So
Okay.
long as my net is at least $7, I'm happy with it.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
now I get it. All
you see what
right.
I'm saying?
I was gonna say. I'm like, wait a second. This sounds strange. I'm
we
like,
could we could probably make more money if we didn't bag and board everything when we ship it. So
oh, good grief, you're going above and beyond, man.
like we've got bagged, boarded, wrapped in bubble wrap, and it's packed in the
For the
USPS.
retail, bagged and boarded for retail.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless they've got like a whole like 100 boxes, and then we just have it shipped directly from the printer. Or like I've got boxes here like in front of me with Tibby that have 75 per box, right? So if they say, yeah, I need 75, I just slap a new label on it and send it to them because it's all packed up all nice and neat. But if they've got like 15 copies or whatever, then we'll go ahead and bag it, board it, pack it up, put it in the USPS flat rate priority, because that, for the weight and the speed, it's the cheapest way to go. And I mean, if you're supplying stores, and as few stores as we're supplying, getting out 30 orders or whatever isn't that hard. You can do that in a couple hours easy.
You might want to look into USPS Ground Advantage at this point too.
Well, yeah, we
'Cause-
do
yeah.
that for our crowdfunding. I use stamps.com for my postage calculations.
Okay.
I've been
Yep.
looking at Pirate Ship a little bit, and I go back and forth on which way I'm going to go. Stamps does have the monthly subscription fee, but the price point is a little more appealing when you're shipping a lot of stuff. It's just you have to figure out where that effective cost price is. So the other thing too, guys, if you're going to do your own publishing, get used to the math and understand the math. Understand your costs beyond your art and your printing. Understand your shipping. For the love of God, understand your shipping. Understand your bookkeeping. Understand your state tax laws. Because that will smack you in the face if you're not careful.
See, Spicer is asking, how did the cold calls go to these comic book stores so they buy your book? And he follows up with, do you ask for the owner or some other position that sounds fancy to make these
Yeah,
decisions?
I just asked if I could speak to whoever the owner or the manager, whoever does the comic orders, and if they say, well, we don't carry any independent books, I said, that's okay. I'll tell you what, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll reach out to you when we have another title out. In the meantime, if you like, I'll go ahead and send you the PDF so you can go ahead and look at it. If you see something you think will sell well for you, just let me know. The information on how to order will be in the email, and then we'll all my digital fulfillment stuff and digital transmissions go through drive-through. That way I don't have any real security vulnerability for the distribution. And the other thing too is that if I send out a set of codes for PDF redemption, whenever those are redeemed, the client ID shows up in my sales report. So if I see someone that pulls all 9 PDFs and it was someone that I just sent those codes to, I can be pretty sure that's who it was that was reading them. If I send it to them and I see like the next purchase is like, hey, I get this one copy of issue 3 of this or something that I know they haven't. And so then, follow up, put something on my calendar to follow up with them on the next release, and just send them a neat email, some great graphics, show them what we're doing, summaries of the book. The thing is that you will hear no more often than you'll hear yes, because everyone is really firmly entrenched in how they do things. That's the system they know. But the other thing too is that show people how they can make money selling your stuff, and of course that's prefaced on your material being marketable. We have made, like, for example, some NSFW covers over the past year because some of our backers were requesting it. I think we've shipped a total of like 3 NSFW covers across the entire year to any of our supporting stores because they just can't move them very regularly. I mean, you might have one guy who orders one and has it put in the pull box, but that's it. Everything else is going to be what's on the shelf and this. So the NSFW stuff was printed, and we'll make it available for the subsequent campaigns in a little box that we have off to the side at conventions. But make sure your stuff is pretty and marketable, fun to look at. Although I think this is probably my favorite cover for issue 2. And
which title is that?
This one is Necroholic by Brian Lee.
Okay.
That's issue 1. Issue 2. Issue 3 is about to be done. He should be done coloring, I think, by the 6th or the 7th. And then he'll be lettered up by the 10th, and we should be on Kickstarter either the end of January or the first part of February.
Very nice, man. Well, we're going to be wrapping it up here. I want to tell you thank you so much for your time and for the conversation. It's great to see what you guys are doing, and I hope you continue to have success with every venture that you guys go into, because it seems like every time I talk to you, you're growing and you're doing better and better, which is great to see.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. I can't say that about a lot of creators out there. It's a struggle, but it's good to see that even though you're putting in all that work and that effort and that time, that it's actually paying off. So that's great to see, man.
That last press run, a really huge one. We're a little over 3,000 books through that run so far. So terrific. I mean, that's fantastic. Now a lot of those went through retailers, so smaller profit margin. But I mean, holy crap, didn't expect that. So huge thanks to everyone who picked up Tibby and 47 and Rain and Necroholic, and thanks for having me on. It's always good to see you, Pete.
Good to see you too, man. Everybody, thank you guys for being here tonight. And Sam, before I let you go, where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and X on Sinopa Publishing. That's Sinopa. I misspelled my own name there for a second. Sinopa Publishing. And then on Drive Through Comics, Drive Through RPG. Guys, if you want to check it out, we've got the digital downloads are available. If you're a D&D fan, we've got some really great 5e open game license stuff on there. Our best-selling items are Whispers of Persephone, which is our book on necromancy as far as D&D goes, and then The Steel Road, and then, of course, our adventures. And then our comics are beautifully illustrated. I invite you all to check them out. Each entry does have some example pages for you to check out on them so you can see what they look like.
Wonderful. And Shane, top of the morning to you. But we are wrapping it up. Shane's over in Ireland.
Oh, cool.
And yes, but it was a good show, Shane. So if you want to catch the replay, it will be up. Pretty comprehensive as far as independent comic book publishing goes. Sam did a really great job tonight.
I talked too much. I'm sorry.
You didn't talk too much. I can't add a whole hell of a lot because you did such a good job.
Well, hats off to you though, Pete, because I mean, I tend to listen when you talk about how stuff gets made. Here's the thing, guys. There's always people who are looking for new and exciting ways to do things. Understanding how things are done currently is important also, because that tells you how other people are making their stuff happen, and then growing from there and finding ways to improve upon that, or finding new avenues that differ from there effectively is much easier than reinventing the wheel whole cloth.
Yeah, 100%. All right, everybody, thank you guys again for being here tonight. Sam, thank you so much, man. It was a great conversation. I recommend everybody, if you're coming in late, definitely check out the whole episode. This was really great. And Shane says, I'll catch the replay. He says a phrase that's a way to piss off an Irishman. Well, hey, we're buddies. I can rib ya. I can do a little ribbing. Much love to you, Shane. All right, everybody, have a great night. I'll be back tomorrow night with Kami Mark. Yeah, this time of year, usually there's a man in a big red suit that comes around. There's not that guy. We're having Kami Mark on the show tomorrow night, and he's a funny fella. Yeah, no problem, Shane. So we'll have that show tomorrow night. Other than that, everybody take it easy. Have a wonderful evening and an even better tomorrow. See you guys soon. Everybody, have a good night.